set for war and have never had fighting. And we would be an enormous threat to such a world. And so the problem is not out in space. Look in the mirror. It's always the case. And so there's this anthropocentric projection that we engage in, where people are afraid of these things. Afraid of that? And you're living right here, just a few miles from the Edwards complex, where all this nasty stuff's going on. You don't need to be afraid of space or anyone coming from space. Because if they're coming with that consciousness, they're also contained in their biosphere until they're ready to learn this lesson of universal. That is the entry ticket to interstellar and interplanetary travel. And without it, you are not allowed. It is like a no-go. That is the truth. Now, so much information is disinformation is out there that have convinced and brainwashed people that, well, some of them are wonderful, but then there are these others that are the bad guys. And that's why we need all this military hardware in space, Earth, from these nasty, marauding aliens. Oh, come on. First of all, if they were here with those capabilities, we're talking about technologies that go beyond the speed of light. Secondly, therefore, the weapon systems would be using technologies that are longitudinal, that travel at infinite velocity, and could do anything. So, I mean, this whole concept is absolutely insane, and it's a brainwashed program designed to cause people to buy into the next level of control and fear. Free your mind. I love that En Vogue song, free your mind. Yeah, they're so good. You could free your mind from this, because this is a program that has been set up to cause people to be afraid and buy into the power of a global kleptocracy that has seized power and seized technology and wants to keep it like that for as long as they can. And the only way they can isn't through any sort of material force. It's through the influence of the mind. And so we have to free our consciousness from these thoughts and see the truth and walk into that future fearlessly and speak truth to power. All of us. And we can. And that's what we're doing. How much time do we have left?
30 minutes.
All right. So what I want to do is open this up to some questions from folks, because I know that you've got to have some questions by now. But as we do that, speak with a loud voice, and I'll repeat the question so everyone can hear it, if that's okay. So, yes, sir.
I was just curious if I was told you had talked to CTP Energy, Draws in Vermont, about consciousness technologies. I didn't know if you knew much about it, or if they were just saying that they had talked to you guys about it.
I don't remember. I have my science advisor deals with those folks, but we have been talking to a lot of people who have technologies that need to be further developed, and hundreds. Unfortunately, they're all scattered in various places, and they don't have a strategic base it out, and that's what we've created. So to do that, however, there's going to have to be some really serious support that happens, and where it'll come from remains to be seen. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
My first time to hear you, and you mentioned twice about a 500,000-year cycle. Where are you coming up with that number? Where is that coming from?
The 500,000-year cycle. Well, these are these meta yugas. We're closing out a 452,000 or so years old, and this is known in a lot of traditions. I mean, Hopi, Vedic, a lot of traditions. And the cycle we're in now is the closing of one and the opening of another, which is why there's so much chaos, because it's the intersection of these two periods, and people have one foot in one and one in the other. So what we have to do is extricate the foot that's still in the one that's going down the black hole and establish the other. And it really is a spiritual test. But it requires also a lot of specific action that we need to achieve. And this is, I want to point out something. In the past cycles, There were periods of enlightenment in localized areas, like you've heard of the Shambhala kingdom. That actually literally did exist. And I'm sure that's a Sanskrit, and Sanskrit's beautiful. I used to tutor people in Sanskrit. Pavitra, pavitroga, sarvavastam gatopiva, yasmare pundari kachan, savaya piyantara sushi, avakana. But we have these sort of remnants, but see, at that time, they were isolated areas that were enlightened. The hallmark of this era, is that the entire globe will rise to that level of enlightenment. And it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen, because we will be a global civilization in a state of not only high technology that's non-violent to the earth and living in peace with the earth, but the consciousness that will go with it. And we will eventually become a civilization where the entire earth and everyone on it is in this state of God consciousness and celestial. And the technologies themselves will have that celestial quality, because they will be manifested and manufactured, if you want to use that concept, from this finest celestial into the material. And by the way, those of you, I don't know how many people have been close up to one of these ET craft. Can you raise your hand if you've seen one pretty close up? It's unmistakable the light it gives out. It is like, people say it's not of this world, and it isn't, because and even though it's there and it's, quote, real, whatever real is, but it's in such that state of purity. But eventually our whole civilization will just be like one little area in the Himalayas or one little area in the Pacific. It'll be the entire world. And spaceship Earth will be this place of enlightenment, this island of cosmic consciousness and enlightenment, very advanced civilization, which we will then be, our progeny, will be ETs to other civilizations. And so the cycle goes and goes and goes and goes forever. Forever. It's beautiful. Yes, sir.
To your understanding, regarding the population of the Earth, will there need to be adjustments made to come into balance with the Earth on that level as we move through? And
you're speaking of the Malthusian dilemma, I'm sure, or the whole thing with too many people. And actually, the Earth carrying capacity is around 15 billion. We're at some now, but we're past our carrying capacity for this level of technology. Now, I want to be clear what I'm saying here. I'm not opposed to birth control, and I'm not opposed to, but in reality, we're in a time now that's the worst of all worlds. We have just enough knowledge so that the population keeps growing exponentially, but we haven't been allowed to have the technology knowledge so that we can live in harmony with nature. So you have 6 billion people wanting to use gasoline engines and drive SUVs and have electricity fired with coal-fired power plants. This isn't sustainable. So the question is not numbers and quantity, it's the quality and the type of tech footprint we're leaving on the earth. Because the number of people is not nearly the issue, particularly if you understand that when you have, let's say the machines that I have seen that are prototypes that generate energy from this quantum vacuum flux field, they're generating this energy from the fabric of space around it. There are no transmission lines to it, and it's running whatever. But if you have, quote, free energy, which is what this is, you can have 100% recycling, 100% scrubbing of all effluent from manufacturing, 100% scrubbing of everything that goes into the air. It's feasible now, and I remember talking to Archibald MacLeish about this in the 70s. We have the ability now, but they use so much energy to do it that it becomes the point of diminishing return because we're using fossil fuels for most of our energy, you see. So when you have this shift happen, and it is in consciousness, but it's also very much in science and technology. There's no separation. Forget this duality between spirituality and science. It's all one big issue, and there's one big solution, and it's us. And this technology allows humanity to live without cannibalizing the Earth's resources defiling the water, defiling the air,